Hey, what's up? Silas here. In this video, there's going to be a few things. I'm going to start talking about dreams. I was asleep and I woke up and I was thinking about something that has been on my mind for a while, something that I've wanted to share with just you guys and other people for a long time. Things that I've been doing for a long time in my life but haven't actually gotten out and actually done it. Was apprehensive about sharing some of this information, thinking I'm not ready or but then when it comes down to it, if you don't actually go out there and talk about these things, how are they going to actually be achieved? What's actually going to be accomplished if you just keep it in under wraps? But it comes also from talking about dreams, turning dreams into reality. I'm going to talk about just some possible ways to get those dreams into reality, or the relationship between dreams and reality, and how just dreaming, focusing so much on dreaming, could actually negate your ability to actually do things in reality, or how your reality is going to shape actually what you dream about. Maybe you have certain limitations in your reality that end up with you not being able to dream about certain things. And the speed drawing that's going to be going with it is this dough thing. I'm going to get into the doughs in a separate video as I'm going to start talking about more things about my personal life. And the relationship with this is it's a dough of the Childish Gambino video, This Is America. And it's also going to be kind of asking, like, is this America? Because Childish Gambino had this idea for this video. He put it out there. And from what I've seen, he hasn't gone out and actually talked about, oh, this is what this video means. But you have different people seeing it and taking in different things about it. Probably good to come back at the end of the video and talk about that a little more. But now let's just get into the whole part.
How exactly do dreams work? Before I went to bed, I was wearing something that was kind of loose fitting, and I thought, okay, this might be a bother because it keeps coming on and off. I mean, this is the stay on the waist. It's not a fitting outfit. So I'm thinking, maybe it's going to bother me, my sleep, my dreams, or whatnot. And then sure enough, I wake up with a dream that involves putting clothes on, looking to get dressed. But then now, with that, I look further and I'm like, okay, what's been going on in my life? And some situations in my life are involving me trying to get to a certain location to get something going. And I've also been thinking about the certain people involved in this situation and how I don't really have that many, what's it called, formal clothes and things like that from different decisions I made in my life. But I was thinking when I woke up that, hey, the person who was waiting for me in my dream was dressed to the nines and things like that, and I had to do something I told them I was going to do. And it ended up a situation where I was kind of late. Now, I don't know if that's just because the clothes were loose fitting and not form fitting, and my physical body was feeling this as I was asleep. And since it's not like while you're sleeping you're going to fix it and put the clothes on to fit well, then your dream is also going to be a situation where you're in the midst of getting it on and off and having some trouble with that or looking around, and it could also just be like Jordan Peterson says, maybe I just need to clean my room and put things in certain locations. Or maybe just clean my life in general. But anyway, it had me thinking like I've had a life where I've had a lot of abilities and things like ideas and I think opportunities, but not the self confidence or planning to actually carry them through. So that's kind of like how the person was like, okay, I have somewhere to be dressed in a certain way. I have some of the material that I can use to actually be ready to be at that location, but I'm having trouble putting them on. And the person waiting for me is similar to some of the individuals that I've met. That I don't think I'm being unreasonable to say that some people I've seen are actually have all the trappings of it, have all the appearance of being prepared for a location, but they don't actually go to that location. Or I've been in a situation where I feel, or I think if I gave you an understanding from what I've seen in the situation and from the observations that I've made, you'd also agree that certain individuals that I've dealt with have the appearance of being ready for somewhere, but they're waiting for somebody else to go there with, if that makes any sense. So that's kind of a situation where it was mirroring situations that happened in my life, and this has been an occasional thing. This has been an issue that's been kind of stressing me a bit, and you dream about it. But this whole long story is this about how do dreams work? What exactly is a dream? And I do understand that some people feel or claim that they have to see somebody in a certain position that's similar to them, that fits into the idea that they have of who they are, who they identify as, doing something before they can actually go out and be that thing or do a similar thing. Now, for someone like me, sure, I happen to be black, as I did talked about in that one video. Happen to speak English. I am a Kenyan citizen. I am an artist. There's a few things out here. So, who are these people do I need to see doing certain things for me to think, hey, yeah, maybe I can do that thing too? But now you tie in my own self identification, not being able to just glob onto a certain culture, location, things like this, due to having traveled rather extensively very early in my life, in the developing years, I'd say. They have that one saying, oh, give me a child before he's 7 and I'll give you the man. Well, by the time I was 7, I'd moved to a different continent, changed pretty much everything that I knew in my life at that time, besides my close, the immediate family that I had, immediate relations. And then a few years after turning 7, that kind of change happened again. So that's been something where it's like, okay, so who exactly do I need to see in my life for me to actually go out and do such things? And then now looking at the actual result right now is I've had certain ideas where I felt like, okay, this is something that could work. And for several reasons haven't actually pulled through with them. Now it could just be lack of self-confidence in some of them. It could be just wrong place, wrong time in some of them. Some of the ideas might have been just not really ready to have other things. I definitely think part of it was not having the foresight or the mind to actually put these ideas out there and test them out, and having that fear of rejection or failure. And I think another part of it was that inability to actually latch on to a place and feel, I think with some people it's like, okay, look, I want to live in X area because I feel like I'm a part of X people that will accept me in a certain way. And once I have that confidence, then I can go out and say, how can I be able to afford living in this place? How can I be able to support that thing that I want? So with that being a tough thing for me, where it's like, okay, can I live in this place? Am I even allowed to live in this place? Tying in a few things where it's like, okay, some things I used to tie into more like, oh, you as an ex cannot live in certain location. Not just the whole actual completely true legality of not being a legal citizen or permanent resident of some of the places that I've been, some of the places that I've really liked. Just the things that I happen to be. There were some things where, right or wrong, whether it was invented by myself or how much it was involved from outside societies, I bought into this whole thing where me, Silas, as a person, and all the things I happen to be, and all the things I chose to be, and all the things that I do were not sufficient enough for me to actually be in certain locations. Whether it was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to fit in with the people here. I don't know if this is good enough. I don't know if I should fight for something else or try for something else. But right now, that resulted in me not really having that base that I feel is very necessary to say, I want to live in this location. And for me to live in this location, I need to do X, Y, Z. So I haven't gotten some of these ideas out. Well, no time's like the present. They say the present is a gift. That's why they call it the present. Something, it was saying like that. I forget exactly what the saying was. But anyway, so I'm going to start giving out some of these ideas because I've talked with other people in my life where I've had some ideas where we've discussed certain things and it seems to have helped some of them. And some of these ideas I'm also thinking like, hey, these are some of the things that I've seen that I've come from an idea and then later on I see somebody else coming out with it successfully and I'm thinking like, oh, maybe I could have done something similar. And I don't necessarily think it's people stealing ideas. I think it's essentially like we live in different locations. We see different things. Different things happen for the same reasons. The same things happen for different reasons. So if I'm living in a certain location, I'm also looking at things. I'm also experiencing the world. There's billions of people out there also doing that same thing. There's going to be a chance that a few million of them might see similar enough things that I do. Then you go down a smaller fraction, 100,000 or so might be able to have similar backgrounds enough for them to absorb those things and kind of be led to some of the similar conclusions that I have. And then you go back down. Now maybe thousands of them have a situation where they have enough time on their hands or the right situation to actually spend more time and think about that thing and actually want enough of the needs and things like that to result in thinking about some more solutions. And then you get down less than that. It got to be at least hundreds of people that will come up with a similar idea that you have on a solution or on an idea or on an observation about something. Now, this could all happen concurrently. We're all human beings. We're kind of seeing the same things. We're seeing the same other human beings acting and reacting, and we have the same biological needs in general. So it makes sense that we'll get to a point where, we get to a point, and then now we see these groups of issues or groups of input, and then we come up to the similar output. So, with all that said, now here's a section. I think I'll just be telling some ideas and things about ideas of things that I think could happen, should happen, that might be able to be helpful. And I don't know, put these ideas out there. I might use these things as part of the creative universe and animation, video games, and things like that. I hope to eventually do stories and fantasy things. I think there's a way for me to tie all these things together in this world where they work, or try to work, and then people can build on them. Or I could just put this idea out there and somebody can be like, hey, wait, this is actually something I've seen being done in X location, and then let me know, and then I might go check it out. It might help me develop my idea better. Or it might just be happy. I might be like, yeah, cool, somebody else is doing it, and it's actually working, it's actually helping the world. And yeah, that's another thing. Somebody might take this idea, might run with it. If you can, more power to you. If you want to let me know how that's going, that's cool. Probably, I was also just thinking in general, what if you had can you have a business? Can you have success by just being honest with ideas? Not thinking like, I have this and I have to like keep it to myself until I'm ready to do something with it and make some money out of it and have to own it. Or can you just get to a situation where you just have many good ideas? We have a situation where a lot of people are just giving out good ideas, putting them out there, and then having other people work. It'd be really cool if there was some kind of business system like that where it's like you could just have an idea company, have an idea location with ideas, and then you put these ideas out, develop some of them to a certain level, and you're like, hey, look, I can't really do more of this. Can you help? Do you want to do more of it? And the people who want to do more of it or can, they come to you and they say, okay, you've come up with this idea. We have the ability and the want to do it. And then they decide, let's carry this idea and go with it. And then the company or the business or whatever I was thinking of was a situation where you just put these ideas out there and then you just sign some kind of contract and you say, okay, look, I'll help you sort of develop this idea, just as guidance, and give you more thoughts about what I was thinking on this. And then we can work together at this and try to implement this. And since I've come up with the idea, you've come up with all the actual getting the thing done, then why don't we get to a point where we sign and we say, okay, this is just an example, where we say, okay, if this idea generates 100,000 for you in your first 10 years, or let's say just 100,000 in your first 3 years working, then let me get like 33% of that. So I just get that much money from just you having some kind of consultancy or some liaison with the person to help them develop the idea further. And then from then on, they own all the abilities, all the profits from it. Now at that point, it helps me because it's an idea that I've had. I've put it out there. Somebody else is running with it. Maybe that's cleared my mind for other ideas that I can do on my own. Or just from putting that idea out there, I've seen, okay, I've had the ability to work on it and see, okay, this doesn't work. This might work better. And then having that out there, how do I develop it on my own? Like, how does that adjust the way I approach things? Maybe the next time, since I've seen an idea that I've had go out and had certain challenges and overcome those challenges, the next ideas I have may be able to integrate that and be able to think about it in a different way. And other people might be able to benefit from that too. Somebody might have an idea of how to fix something or in China, or somebody may have an idea from what they saw on television that might that could maybe help in their country or their location, but it doesn't necessarily fit those situations. But by putting that idea out there, somebody else somewhere else might be like, wait, I actually have the situation, the input that solution may actually fit because the reality and the resources here are in a certain way. And then they can now take that idea and they can tell that person in China, okay, the person in China can be like, okay, in our country, this actually works. In Zimbabwe, maybe that doesn't work. But that person in Zimbabwe writes something about something that he's seen either in Zimbabwe or another country or in China, and the person in China is like, hey, maybe if that can work actually here, because we have XYZ where you guys have QRS, and then they decide to implement it, and then when they're implementing it and actually putting it out there, in that process, it gets to develop to a point where now if you have QRS, that same idea can actually apply for it. And then that person can just be like, hey, look, I've had this, I'll put this idea back out there. And then now that person who initiated the idea can be like, oh, finally, now it's in a situation that can work here. And they can bring it back there. And this is kind of just like, I don't know if this is a system that's been tried before. I was actually going to discuss some issues, some actual business ideas and project ideas and app ideas and things like that in this current presentation video, whatnot that you're listening to. But I think just giving the intro of what I was thinking about in general is enough of an idea. So let me know, have you guys seen a company like this? Have you seen a situation where people are giving out ideas and then other people willingly come to get those ideas and form some kind of partnership that involves financial gain for both people on that idea? Because I think part of the big problem in the world, part of the, not problem, part of the difference between the time that we're living in today and the time in the past is the fact that now we have a situation where in the past, just 100 years ago, a problem could come up in one location. And then two people in two different locations might have the first part of solving that solution, and the other person may have the second part. So this is an example. There could be a problem in Alabama in the United States of America. There could be somebody in Alabama who's really concerned about fixing this problem, has the finances, has the time, but doesn't have an idea to actually understand it. Then somebody in India may see this news story about this problem and think, hey, why can't somebody just do this about this problem? And then they can be like, okay, but now if you start this, what happens with that? What happens with this? What happens with that? But they don't know. They don't have the time. They can't go into that further. Then somebody, let's say here in Kenya, could think like, hey, okay, if somebody does that, they don't understand, like, what if this is the second part of it? Now that you have this need, you can end this up. You can tie this in to fit into this culture, in this certain way, in this location, in Alabama. Maybe if you do it this way, it can actually work. Maybe if you present it in this way, it can actually work. Then, but I don't understand exactly how to actually get things started about this actual issue. Now, in the past, 100 years ago, even if those people, that person in India and this person in Kenya, could actually heard about the problem in Alabama, they would not be able to actually, first of all, it's hard for them to even hear about that problem, okay? Lack of communication. Second of all, it's hard for them to actually put that information, those possible parts of the solution out there. Now they can put it out in location. Those two ideas can come together. And now that one person in Alabama who has the finances and the time and the want to do it can find that idea, and then they can actually put that idea into the works. They can go in and now be like, okay, I understand the laws, I understand the challenges here on the ground, I understand the people here, I understand the marketing, I need to get the financing up, we need to put it in a certain kind of language. Now those three people can come together, and before where there was a problem and an issue that could have gone unsolved, now by getting those three people together, getting the information to share these things together, now they can actually get to the solution. And I think that solution will eventually improve the rest of the world. Now, I think with the financing part, with the wealth part, sometimes, at least I think this is one thing I can attest to that I've experienced. Where some situations I'll think, look, I can't see this through in like a business plan in my mind and making it out. I can't really see myself being able to be in this location or wanting to be in this location long enough for me to see this idea through. So that's why I'm not going to do this. I'm not capable enough to actually build this website at this time, so I'm not even going to discuss it. I'm not going to ask anyone for help. I'm not going to do this. But if I just ask somebody for help, maybe we could have gotten different, smaller things going. And that's the thing. Maybe you can get to a point where somebody also admits, like, look, I completely understand without you two people in India and Kenya, this ability, time, and money that I had to deal with this issue would have just gone to waste. I would have done something else. But now that you guys have handled that part for me, and I'm just doing the doing, I'm willing to give you 10% of my profits go to that, even if it's just a small amount. Now that person in India, that person in Kenya, because they had an idea that could not have worked at all in their place, in their location, because they're doing something else. There maybe the person in India could just be somebody who works in the tech industry, working for actually a company in the United States of America, but they're working there, they have their time in their hands. The other person in Kenya could even just be like a store owner, a small store owner that just has some time, like he's doing some downtime, he's looking online, but he's not ever going to be able to actually stop running his store. He's invested, he has a family, he has a few small kids. He's not going to just drop that and then move to Alabama and try to get it going. The person in Alabama was just somebody who lived in this area, who liked this area, who happened to have some money, could be a retiree or something, and he's had a different background. Maybe he was a plumber in the background, a blue-collar worker, and he just saved up some money well enough, put a few investments, bought his house there. His kids have finally gone off to college, and he's done with this time, and he didn't know what to do with his time. He wanted to feel like he's part of the community, do something more, and now these two people have given him the idea. You get to that kind of situation, even if these people have financial needs. I think people are good enough to decide, like, let's have some kind of sharing this. I don't need that much back from you for you to give me just this small percentage. We can discuss a percentage or whatnot. You give the percentage that you want to the people who helped you get the idea. And I think the person who's actually doing the thing will actually be human enough to just think, I didn't come up with this idea on my own and I did this. And regardless, even if you put that idea out there, you just know, like, I'm putting this out there, and whatever comes back, if it's just knowing that, hey, this has actually helped somebody, I think that's enough for a lot of people here in the world. Especially in those situations where it's like, look, if I just kept this idea to myself, I don't think much would come from it. Now, that's a general idea for this company that I've had, this idea of this thing. And the overarching idea was to create this universe, Carbon, which is the title of it now, where it's based in this reality and a fantastical reality. I'll explain later on a separate video on how these things are connected, how we tap into both these worlds, where if you have an idea that's fantastical, it can also be brought in and used in this Carbon universe, and people can actually talk about this idea and talk about it. Let's say you have an idea that requires something that's sci-fi, science fiction, or fantastical, like fantasy, magic related, but still has might even have some applications to the world. People can deal with it in this separate world, that this reality tunnel, that enables that allows for that. But it's also tied into the world. So if you have some idea that is in Japan, in our reality, with all our physics and limitations that we have here, well, not limitations, rules, let's not say limitations, the rules and things that are accepted in the reality that we know of, then people can talk about that in that sphere. Like, you can develop, maybe you can, like, oh, the Japanese system of maybe cleaning up the radioactive waste at Fukushima is like this and this. What if we tried this? And then now you can put that, and it can be part of this existence, part of this story in this one location, in this Carbon universe. And then other people can come and be like, oh, okay, now you've put characters doing this, we can test about what if they do X, Y, Z. And then now you can actually go and, like, somebody can be like, look, they're actually doing this in Fukushima. And then you can now tie the reality into that story as well. But now you can test out these different things. And with the Carbon universe, that gives them a location to do this. So even these ideas going in and out there, with this actual real world business, where it's like, this is a thing where people can actually be finding ideas to actually apply in their world, in actual life, and make actual money out, make actual profit out of it, and help actual people. That's a part of this site, but the other part of it is also, hey, these ideas can also exist in this carbon universe. Can also somebody who just be creative and need a backstory for. You could have thought of some really cool character, some really cool fight scene or something between this character and a lion, for instance, and then they can be like, okay, to flesh out the story a little stronger, it'd be nice if there was some background. Then they can come to this site and get this idea, and then now it can be like, okay, the background to this is these two people were trying to enact this one idea to fix this area that I saw in this website. And then now they can take that idea and put it into an actual story and then now develop their characters of that. So you understand, there's a lot that goes into this. I don't know if this video has made some sense. This is something that's been on my mind for a while. I'm going to develop this more later. And it's just some thoughts that I have on different things, on the dream thing. So let's come back to the start. How do dreams work? This American dream thing, why is that something that's tied with America? Is there a Kenyan dream? Is there a Chinese dream? Is there an Australian dream? And maybe that's part of the reason why America has this American dream. It was a situation where it was one of the first countries, I think, I can't really think of. It's a rather unique country in the way that a lot of people from different areas came in with different inputs, different ideas, and then they brought those things together. And possibly it could have been dreams. It could have been somebody's like, hey, in my culture, we do things in a certain way when we are approached with a certain problem, and we have certain known factors. So our behavior is in a certain way. But then now with the United States of America, there was a lot of new challenges, actual mix of diversity of ideas, but not necessarily diversity of goals. A lot of people wanted to better their life for themselves and the people around them in this new challenging environment, but they didn't really have the ability to do it in the same old, or have the same challenges in their old environment. But getting to know these two different things, getting these different inputs in, maybe they were able to actually put these new challenges and new inputs in together, and during the sleep, in the whole dream way that things work, be able to put these ideas together, and your dream mind takes the input that's happening in the world, the challenges that you have in the world, and they put the input that you've had during your waking hours together into something, into some narrative, into something that makes more sense. And maybe that's part of what just dreaming is. And I don't know if this works. Let me know what you guys think. I'm going to develop this idea more, both on the business factor of just this whole idea thing. I know there's some situations with intellectual property, whether people actually follow through on things, if there's no direct financial benefit. Are people more driven by profit, actual financial direct profit, or do people actually are driven by just helping people, or being like, yes, enough validation that I've done something that's successful? And that's actually another business where I predicate that people are actually focused on that validation and are rewarded enough by just that feeling of success. Now, the other one I'll definitely develop more is this idea of carbon and that universe, because that's something that I personally want to work on. That's something that I think I'm comfortable knowing that if I can somehow successfully, financially, work on this carbon universe with these characters and creations and things like that, and have that be something that actually earns me enough money to survive and live in a location that I am happy with the people that care about me and I care for, I would do that. So if I could actually find a way to create an entire financial system or structure or actual business that can actually help me do my creative things in that sense, I'd be all for it. So I'm going to try and develop these two things. Let me know what you guys think, and that's it. So yeah, thanks for listening. With that whole thing, there was a part in there where I was talking about the whole dream, who you need to see. And I've met some people who have had the same traveling background, but maybe because of that traveling background, it develops a person that's just in general more of a free agent when it comes to some of the typical things or typical builders of people's personalities. So they haven't necessarily been like, oh, I saw these people, but then I've seen some of these people also that have that traveling background find someone and get settled down and get some things going with their life, and some of them are still out there floating, similar to a way that I feel I'm floating. So it's not necessarily that. And I think with that mix, there's some people I've seen that actually have ended up being able to settle down And settle down to me is not a necessarily negative term. I think it used to have more of a fearful term or more mistrust. Or I think I put it in a section where it's like I was unable to do this. I didn't think I was capable of doing that, so I would go to look at it in a negative way. But anyway, essentially, I found people who did travel, but they kind of found an anchor in a positive way again. Anchor so has some kind of negative connotations in some ways. But no, they were able to find someone, something that was able to anchor them down, and then they could still put together their energies and experiences that they've had from the travel and having that mentality and bringing these two different people together for the same reason, both liking each other and both wanting to make a life. And I've seen some success from that. So that's part of the building thing, I think, with this idea. And I think another part of the building thing with this idea is how many people who are more rooted to certain locations have imparted ideas and knowledge and care for me. And I think, like, okay, seeing how they've been able to affect my life, and maybe my travels and things like that have been able to affect their lives. And then another part is just going online and having the access to all these other universes and worlds and experiences and reality tunnels from people who've seen things and shared things and put it out there, and then I've been able to experience them. And then that's part of the reason that's gotten me to do what I'm doing here. And yeah, I think just bringing those two different people for the same reasons, together, I think there's a positivity in that, and I think this good things can happen from that. So you don't necessarily have to see somebody who's exactly like you. Sometimes probably seeing somebody who can think similar to you but is not like you might be the key to see how somebody who was different from things that you think about those locations, things, was able to do something. That might be enough. That might be just enough for you to come out and be like, hey, maybe I can find a way to do this thing too. Yeah. So yeah, and one more thing, that comment that I was saying before, was that one saying that I thought, like, it was the present and the time thing and whatnot. It goes like this: every day is a gift. That's why they call it the present. Now I don't know where I heard this. I don't think I came up with it myself, but there is going to be merchandise. I'm going to put it on a shirt. You can buy the stuff. So there'll be links below to that. And I think I do actually believe that. I think a lot of you out there do. And I think a lot of you who don't would, if you actually put some thought into it. And yeah, really thanks for listening. Goodbye.
Hey, what's up? Silas here. So, as I mentioned at the end of that video, thanks for watching it, first of all. Thanks a lot for putting it through. Let me know your thoughts. There's a lot of things I talked about in there that I'll expand on more, but this is, I think, I've had a few very personal videos where it's not necessarily just commentary about general things, and I'm going to hopefully try and go more in this direction where I'm also giving you guys content that I think you guys are interested in, that people in general are interested in, but try to do more of my own personal stuff and also increase my ability to express myself, talk about certain things, create new things, and maybe you guys can come along on the journey and find ways to actually help out, or I might be able to think about something that, as I mentioned, I may have a part of an idea, you may have another part, we may find 2 or 3 other people that have other parts, and then we put those things together, and then we create something new form of communicating, new form of talking, new form of adding things to the general human story that we're all, I think, a part of. Now, as I mentioned, I was going to talk about that Childish Gambino video. There was a few things. First, let me talk about Childish Gambino himself, Donald Glover. I've liked him since. My favorite song of his, I think, is Bonfire, which is an early song of his that I heard. And I think I first saw him on Community, and then I think I found out that he had songs, and I heard Bonfire and was like, wow, this is fire. This is a bonfire. Bonfire is fire. But he has a really good way of telling stories. Like, he goes through this adventure, and the video really works really well with the actual lyrics. And it's not surprising that he's done this because he wrote for Saturday Night Live. He was on Community. He might have been part of the writing people. I don't know if he's been in there. And I think he's done things on other shows. He has a very successful show right now called Atlanta. I haven't watched it, but I've seen some of his interviews, and I've seen that he seems to be somebody that he's definitely successful financially. He's mentioned how he did not come from a family that was really struggling monetarily. But at the same point, I think I can relate to some of the struggles that he seems to be going through He seems to be smoking a lot of marijuana. I'm not saying like just everybody who smokes marijuana is going through struggles. He seems to have issues with probably drinking, maybe some other drugs. Not confirming any of this stuff. This is just stuff that I'm seeing and observing. And I have a relation with that where you can be financially well off, but not, you can be wealthy in that sense, but not stable in your mental or spiritual sense. And if you're watching this video, chances are you are in the top 10% in the world right now, monetarily wise, just financially wise goods and things like that. And then if you are in that top 10%, that places you in the 0.00001% of humans in the entire history of humanity that we know of. There's much more videos on that, of the prehistory, of the pre like what the Younger Dryas event where there might have been other civilizations, but I'm going to get into that stuff. As I mentioned, these are going to be things that I'm going into more where it's like personal things that I'm interested in that I think I can communicate in a certain way. But anyway, back to the thing with Donald Glover, Childish Gambino, with our status right now. So he's in that position. He's struggling with things politically, kind of feeling out his position politically. He said some things that are probably anti-Trump, that gets in a position where he makes a video like this. He's from certain communities. I think his Atlanta show is more towards the urban African American community. Or I think progressives kind of like it. I don't know. From what the few things that I've heard about the show, it seems to be talking about more social issues and things like that. And some people might take umbrage with that. Now, he's been talking about this material. He's been putting these things in a certain way. And then you have people you see the coverage of the music video with, I saw this on Breitbart. They were talking about, oh, he's talking about how, there's guns being shot in this video. They go and they shoot up a church. There's a scene where he walks in. First of all, the person gets shot in the chair, first of all. Then it goes in and the person, he walks in and there's a choir singing, and then he turns down and kind of shoots at the choir, and the people drop. And people are like, oh my God, she's shooting the church. He's doing this thing. And I know if he was more of a conservative artist, I don't know who are the conservative artists are. Like, I think if Kanye West released an album, a video like this now, people in the political left might start going at him and saying he's promoting violence, is he promoting shooting black people. I know if it was a white artist, probably if it was a white country artist or something, and he goes and he shoots a choir of black people, they would definitely talk about the racial angle there. They would talk about, oh, you're increasing, this is like Dylan Roof going in and shooting up the church in, what was it, South Carolina or Charleston or something? I think it was South Carolina. But no, in this situation, he's making a statement. It's a brave thing from the people on the political left. From the right, it's like, oh, he's shooting up a church and things like this. I'm looking at the video and I'm watching it as a piece of art, as a piece of expression. Like, oh, this is pretty cool. I like what he's doing here. I like the visuals that are coming out, the dances that he's going through. And that scene with the church thing, for me, my main thing was like, that blood on the back looks like it's been on the wall for too long, like it was dry. It looked dried and it looks like it dripped. If I had done it, I'd have done more like a splatter thing. And that's me just looking at it from a technical level. Maybe that's us being out, kind of divorced from the thing where I'm like, I get Donald Glover is doing something. Just because he's making his own statement doesn't mean I have to catch feelings off of it. I can take his statement and look at the piece for just what it is. But yeah, I don't know how many people can do that. I don't know how often this is a thing that's done. Yeah, so that's it for now. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know about the things in the video that you guys enjoyed or liked. Some of the ideas that I brought up, do you think they're pointless and shouldn't be followed? I'm going to try to follow some of these things. There's a core aspect of that with the carbon-33, C33 that I'm going to build off of with all these other things that I'm going to add into it. And with these things, I'm at the point in my life where I know I can't do all this stuff myself. I like the division of labor. I'm going to be asking people I know for help. I'm going to be talking to people out there. If you guys are watching this, if you guys think you can help out, or if you guys think there's something I can help you guys with, or even just giving comments, being like, yeah, that's not going to work. Or as I mentioned, tell me like, yeah, somebody else is doing that. It's working already. So there's no point of you doing that. Maybe if you change something, then maybe I'll be able to change something and find my own niche in there. And some things also, hey, there's Coca-Cola, but there's also Pepsi. There's also like store brand versions. So there's also versions where it's like if something is working out there, somebody else is doing it. Maybe I can learn from how they did it and find my own way. It doesn't mean it has to be just one product out there. But yeah, so like, share, and subscribe. Again, thanks a lot for watching this video. Thanks a lot for the people who've been following the channel. If this is your first time here, thanks a lot for clicking and sitting through it and listening to what was going on. And goodbye.